Our next speaker is Steve Brown. Everybody in this room that's been around for a while knows Steve Brown. Steve Brown served as Peachtree City Mayor. How many years ago was that, Steve?
About 20.
About 20 years ago. And then he served 2 terms as Fayette County Commissioner, serving as chairman for a good many of those years. And so, Steve, nobody can talk about Steve Brown like Steve Brown can talk about Steve Brown. So I'm just going to, no more. I'm not going to say no more. Come on up, Steve. And start you off right here with your first slide.
You know, I didn't know Jaquan was from Greene County, but I have very fond memories of Greene County because when I was at the University of Georgia, we were a set of poor boys. I had a bunch of friends that lived on my hall in the dormitory at the university. They were peach farmers. And if the peach crop didn't come in, they didn't have any money to buy food or pay any of their bills. So one of the things we did was we regularly, during hunting season, we went to the wildlife management area in Greene County, and we went hunting, snagged deer, squirrels, and everything else, and we supplied our own food. A lot of us were the first people in our families to ever go through college in the line, and we didn't have a lot of money, and we survived. We did what we could. We worked whatever jobs we could, and we hunted for our food, and it was a very nice thing. But just to show you how the generations change. Back then, we brought high-powered rifles to the university with us so we could go deer hunting.
Mm-hmm. What years were that, Steve?
Those were the early 80s, the late 70s, early 80s. You're aging me now. But we brought high-powered rifles with us so we could go deer hunting. We couldn't bring them in the dorm, of course, but we would give them to the police station. And they would store them in their gun vault. We'd go pick them up at 4 in the morning out of the gun vault, and we'd go hunting, come back, and give them back the rifles. If I did that today, I would be doing 20 in the state pen, and they would be telling all the students to go into the furry room where they have coloring books where they can get de-stressed from the angst of somebody actually having a firearm. And that's the difference in our cultures today. I mean, it is absolutely amazing how things have changed on college campuses and what's allowed and what's not allowed. I'm so glad we got young people like that who have identified the need to get on those college campuses and go start spreading the word. So I used to do a column with the local newspaper, The Citizen. They got bought out by some people who, let's just say, are on the very far left side of the spectrum. And if you were a conservative writer or had conservative thoughts, you were gone the moment it got bought out. And I was one of those. What that ended up doing for me is it gave me a little bit of free time to think about things. And I'd had some people saying for years, Steve, you need to do a podcast. Do a podcast on the content that you're doing in the newspaper. It would be great to have that. And I thought about it for a while, ran into all the right people who were willing to work on a project like that with me. And we do. So if you ever go to Facebook or Rumble or any of the other ones, go to Editorial Interchange. Editorial Interchange. And you'll note that a lot of the people that will be attending the Red Gala, I have personal full-length interviews with every one of them. And it's not some short 30-second interview that you see on Fox or CNN or anything like this. They're hour and a half, some of them. And we ask questions that they want to have asked, and we ask some questions that they don't want to have asked. But it's great content. So if you're going to vote in that PSC election, even Tim Eckel said one of the best interviews, his people said one of the best interviews he's ever had is the one we did on Editorial Interchange. So go check it out and see what you think. And that's also given me the ability to do some videos on what's going on in our city, in Peachtree City, with the city council. This is our mayor here, Kim Lerner, current mayor. Over the past 12 years, Kim and her predecessor, Vanessa Fleisch, I have watched one horrible move, one horrible action after another. They have taken our land plan, our award-winning land plan, and diced it and sliced it and changed it to a recipe that now is what we call urbanizing Peachtree City, is what they want to do. The only thing that has saved us is they have never had 3 solid votes to implement the plan. Back when Vanessa Fleisch was in office, at the end of her term, they came up with a Livable Centers Initiative Plan, LCI they call it. They hired a bunch of urban planners out of Atlanta, and the urban planners and the city council at the time said, we have got to change Peachtree City. Wow. We have got to change. You know what they wanted to change it? They wanted to change it to Fulton County, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, DeKalb County, Douglas County, every other county. Fayette has always been really strong as a county because we're different. We're not in that homogenized mix of nail centers and tidal pond stores and broken down shopping centers and overcrowded neighborhoods and apartments all over the place, overcrowded schools, schools that don't perform. That's not us. Hadn't been us. But that's where they wanted to take us. And I watched in horror as that was happening. And I kind of gritted my teeth. I wrote columns about it. I was alerting the public about it week after week after week. This is what you need to pay attention to. Then Miss Lerner gets in office. I've known Kim for 25 years. Know her family. Kim gets in, and not only does she modify the land plans, but she decides she doesn't want to hear anybody's thoughts that don't agree with her thoughts. Amen. She gets in there. I didn't even have to ask Ken to have a witness. She just came right out and said it. But she started off with saying, you know what, if you're a citizen, we're not going to let you speak at the meeting. You know, 40,000 inhabitants in Peachtree City, give or take, 40,000. And of that 40,000, only 10 people by ordinance are allowed to speak at the council meeting. Of those 10 people, you only get 3 minutes apiece. Now, that used to be 2, so they've given you a bonus. Now you got 3. Now, let me tell you, I have watched people, and I saw this just at the last council meeting this past Thursday. There was an older gentleman got up there, and we know him here in the party. He was trying to speak. He was going through all the motions, and he was trying to read off. You know, we're all coming to the council meetings with prepared sheets because we're under so much pressure to get it all out before the buzzer goes off. And let me tell you about the buzzer. They'd have this big screen behind the council, right? And there's another big screen to the back, to your back when you're speaking. And they put a big timer on there with 3 minutes. And it is just going like this. And you're trying to read this thing, and you're looking at this thing, and you're going like this. And when you cannot make it, because they don't give a damn what you have to say, when you cannot make it, a loud alarm goes off. And there's a loud computerized voice that says, your time is up. You must sit down. Your time is up. You must sit down. And I'm like, my God, why are we doing this to our constituents, to the people who pay the bills, the people who pay all that staff and the council that's sitting up there on the dais? And he couldn't finish. And they just told him to sit down. And I felt so bad. And then he goes and he sits down in the audience, and they're bringing up an issue on council. Ms. Brown brought it up on the dais, and she said, I'd like to discuss this. And they look at the man and they say, well, you know, would you mind? He was associated with the issue, and he stood up and he said, I would have told you about this, but because you only gave me 3 minutes, I couldn't get down to the bottom of my paper. And he goes, otherwise you would have known this in advance. But that's how much they don't care, right? So that's one. Well, Peachtree City, because we've been different, because we're a civic-minded community, because we appreciate the deep pool of human capital that we have in Peachtree City, if you're a citizen and you've got an issue, if you've got a beef with the city, whatever, you can put an agenda item on the agenda and we'll discuss it. Now, it may not come out the way you want, but you will be heard, and it will be discussed, and it will be voted upon. That's gone. Can't do it anymore. She doesn't want you coming up there with your problems. So you can't do that anymore. You've got to get permission from a council member or her in order to do it, and if a majority of them say they don't want it, then you can't get it. We've been doing that for decades. Now you'd think, okay, Steve, maybe they were abusing it. Maybe citizens were just piling in and, you know, just keeping the agenda so packed that we couldn't get any city business done. It had been done 3 times in the last 4 or 5 years. but she doesn't want to hear your complaints. So she takes it out. Can't do it anymore. And if you think that's not bad enough, then she goes and she looks at her own council members. Well, you know, that pesky Suzanne Brown and that doggone Clint Holland, they keep bringing up stuff, and I just don't want to talk about it because I'm against what they're saying, but I know the constituents are for it. So what am I going to do? Well, of course, the obvious decision is don't let them speak. And so they passed an ordinance to shut them up. And they have to get permission from a majority of council. It takes 3 council members for them to put an agenda item elected by the citizens at large, and they can't put an agenda item on the agenda that's of concern to the constituents. Have we not hit rock bottom? I'm telling you. I mean, I watched this when I was mayor 20 years ago. We had citizens speak on every issue on the agenda, whether it was a public hearing or not. You could speak as long as you wanted to. The only thing I asked you to do is please don't curse, please don't call people names, and please don't repeat yourself. Those were the rules. You could speak on every agenda issue. Look where we are now. You can't even get your council member to put an agenda item on there now. That's how far we've come. And then the interesting part about it is she has silenced all of you all. She has silenced her objectionable colleagues. But you know what she does? We have a taxpayer-funded show for her on the internet, Mondays with the Mayor. She gets to give you all her propaganda and all her opinions, and she shut everybody else down. And then you know what else? She goes through and she hires this foreign firm called Zen City that does these slanted surveys that only tell you what you want to hear. And she says they have an algorithm, and it's going to tell me what the people are thinking. Now, how insulting that you shut everybody down, you don't allow people to speak, and you're hiring an algorithm to try to figure out what everybody's thinking. I mean, it's just disgusting. But you see the look on her face right now? She's not a happy camper in this picture. I took this Thursday morning at the council meeting. That was what transpired. That look came right after there was a vote, and it was a 3-1 vote. She was the one, and we're going to take on the ordinance that won't allow council members to be able to put agenda items on the agenda. And so kudos to Suzanne Brown and Clint Holland. They pushed it, and Laura Johnson went along with them. And so that's going to be on the agenda at the next meeting, and we're going to talk about it. Peachtree City, ptcbackontrack.com. That's our website. I hope you'll go look at it. ptcbackontrack.com. It should be on the flyers here too, on your table. You're not going to find a more loaded, content-laden website for a local election than what that one is right there. That's my 20 years of governmental experience and knowing what we need to work on, and it's all packed in that website. It'll tell you what the current mayor's doing, and it'll tell you what I would want to do if I get elected. And it is very, very detailed. If you like it, share it. Please share it with all your friends. There's video content on there. There's written content. We go to citizen articles, what other people have to say. Very, very, very dense website. And now here's the key. Our mayor, current mayor, if she comes to the meeting here, she's going to tell you she's a conservative, right? If she goes to the local Marxist group, she's going to tell them she's a Marxist. If she goes to a Buddhist temple, she's going to tell them she's thinking about being a Buddhist. This is how she does it. She, whatever the moment calls for, that's what I'm going to be. Well, let me tell you, you ever heard the expression, put your money where your mouth is? This is where her money's going. If you go to fec.gov, which is the government website that shows all the campaign contributions, she's funded, and my teammate who I'm running with, James Clifton, great young man, you'll meet him later on. He's running against Michael Polachek, and we went and looked up both their accounts on fec.gov. You can do this yourself. We have the links on the website. All you gotta do is hit the link. It'll show you every one of them that they've made. But they funded Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams' PAC, Ossoff and Warnock, all of them.
All Democrats.
Yes. But here's the thing. Remember, I was talking to the young Republicans, and I always told them, don't concentrate on the who, concentrate on the what, right? So when you're talking to people and you're telling them who's Kim voting for, you know, she's not obviously she's writing a check with Joe Biden's name on it, and she's writing a check with Kamala Harris's name on it. But what she's funding is illegal border entries. She's funding rapes, murders from illegal aliens. She's bringing gangs and drugs into the city. That's what she's supporting when she's writing these checks. Do you know that we are on the verge of a tuberculosis epidemic because of the number of illegal immigrants who have come across the border who have full-blown tuberculosis? We haven't seen even a peak in tuberculosis in years, and we are almost on the verge of a full-blown tuberculosis epidemic now. That's what you tell your friends and your neighbors and your associates what she's supporting. It's not Kamala Harris, it's open borders. It's crime. It's taking the system where in New York and Chicago and all these other places where they spend more money on housing and feeding and the welfare of illegal aliens, medical care, than they do on their own citizens, some of them are sitting on the curb and have nowhere to go. But we're going to spend, Chicago alone, $5 billion on these folks. Now, here's what she did. She cut off the citizen, she cut off the council members, and she continually raises your taxes. She has never met a tax or a fee that she didn't want to increase, and she's done it every year she's been in office. Every year. I have never once heard Kim ever say, is there any way we can build efficiency in the government? Has anybody looked to see if we have duplication of services within our various departments? Is there any way we can look at helping and promoting local businesses? And one time she had the audacity to come out at a meeting with some of her Democrat friends and say, we've got to do something to make Peachtree City more affordable. Well, good. Let's start with not raising taxes and not raising fees every year, right? If you want to start a business in Peachtree City as a local business owner, she has made it so hard on you because you've already got high real estate prices. That's good because we're a good market, but you're paying more for sewer hookups, you're paying more for business licenses, and you're paying more for every expense of operating a business, property taxes, everything else. She keeps increasing the cost of doing that. Then she's violated the law several times. Anybody know the speed hump gate problem where she put in the speed humps and installed the speed humps? She goes in there, and all of a sudden, these wonderful golf cart riders are riding down the pass system, and boom, 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 there's all these speed humps. And people go crazy, and they're like, well, when was this ever discussed? It wasn't discussed in public. They created that, did it behind closed doors, appropriated the funding behind closed doors, and then installed them. Never had a public hearing, never asked the people what they thought, because she doesn't care what you think. And then everybody rebelled, just absolutely rebelled. Then one morning you're riding your golf cart again, and they're all gone. Here's the problem. She violated the Open Meetings and the Open Records Act again, a second time on the same issue, because there was no public hearing to remove the speed humps, and there was no public hearing to defund that project. She's done it twice. Then they were having the variance dilemma. They have this thing called administrative variance. And my friend Suzanne Brown was looking at this, and she was telling me some of these things that were going on with the ordinance. And I said, no, that can't be true. And I looked. When was that changed? The last meeting that Vanessa Fleisch had, and she's a real estate agent, to help the real estate developers and anybody in the home building industry, she changed some ordinances on our last meeting out the door. One of them was the administrative variances. You have zoning as a protection for your property values and your quality of life, right? The reason you can't build from corner to corner to corner in your subdivision is because you need to have some sort of covenant within our ordinances that makes it predictable, okay? So that when you buy a home, you have reasonable assurance of what you can get for your home because of the ordinances in place for the zoning. They changed it. You could now get 50% of the setbacks in our ordinances in terms of a variance. So if you bought a lot, let's just say that was too small in a subdivision, and you wanted an Olympic-sized swimming pool, and it would take the entire back lot to do it, they could give it to you. Now, here's the problem, though. Here's the problem with that. They were having all those meetings behind closed doors. So Suzanne found out about all these. She looked them up. She gave them to me. I started writing some columns about it. We looked up all the stuff. We did an open records request, and we said, can you show us where you actually scheduled that committee meeting for the variance? Do you have any minutes for that variance where the committee met and made that decision? Is there any record of this? No. That's a violation of the open meetings law. That's a violation of the Open Records Act. And they did it frequently, and they were giving away huge variances. And let me tell you what happens legally when you give away huge variances. If you give these variances away, substantial, 20, 30, 40, 50%, and there's no justification that the city has done something to impact your property in order to give you that variance, there's an excuse for giving you the variance. If you just wholesale give out those things, you have no zoning ordinances at that point. All the person in your subdivision has to do is say, you gave it to him, you gave it to her, you gave it to him, and I'm going to get it too. And you know what the Superior Court judge is going to say? You got it. And then your ordinances are gone. And what happens to a master plan community like Peachtree City when your ordinances start getting corrupted and then you can no longer defend them legally? Everybody starts building everything, and then you lose all that predictability of your value of your homes. So that's been here. Ruin the future tax base. The whole western side, if you take Highway 74 that splits straight north and south, the whole western side of Highway 74 on the Coweta County side was all supposed to be corporate headquarters and light industrial all the way up to Tyrone. It's not. Some decisions were made. Started with Planterra Ridge. That was during Bob Lennox's administration. Apparently, the Peachtree City Development Corporation was hard up for some cash flow, so they let them build a subdivision there. And they said, oh, that's a one-off. We're just going to let that happen. Then they went and built the big box stores, the Home Depot, the Walmart, and all that other stuff right there on Highway 54 West, all those shopping centers. That wasn't supposed to be there. Then they built the apartment complex behind them, then Centennial, then all of those up McDuff Parkway. Now, what's the problem with that? When you annex and rezone and build all those houses, all of that property was the potential for us to build our future tax base. And those future corporate headquarters and light industrial applications that we would have put on that land would be used to offset our property taxes in future years. That's gone. So now every future tax increase that's going to have to occur because we're paying staff more, or we need to do this, we need to do that, it's all coming out of the residential pockets. And let me tell you about residential. If that house ain't worth $650,000, we're not even breaking even on that house. And I can tell you most of those up that west side aren't $650,000 or more. But that is a real problem. We have given away the future. If you are a future generational Peachtree citizen, you're in trouble because it's all coming out of your pocket. There's nothing to offset those taxes in terms of economic development unless we do something drastic. Pro-urbanization. My gosh, that LCI plan I was telling you about. I was shocked. I had somebody, personal friend, working in City Hall who called me and said, you had better do an open records request on this LCI plan as fast as you can. And I did. And I was horrified. Do you know, they wanted to build, because Kim had changed our comprehensive plan that would allow this, they were going to change all of our green spaces that we have treasured. Drake Field, you know Drake Field next to the library, that jewel of a scenic treasure that we have, an apartment complex was going to go on there. The parking lot that you would park at to get on Drake Field? Strip Shopping Center. You know that multi-million-dollar tennis center that we have? That's the vaulted tennis center, one of the best in the state of Georgia? Going to tear it down and put an apartment complex there. All the West Park offices with the beautiful buffers in there, you know, beautiful preserved green space around all those office complexes. It's like nothing you've ever seen. They were going to infill them with townhomes and condominiums. And they were going to do all of this around the most densely populated intersection at 54 and 74 in all of Fayette County.
And they're gonna redevelop Huddleston.
They were going to, and Huddleston was going to be, well, Huddleston Road was going to be completely redeveloped, 2,000 apartment units and all these strip shopping centers. And just imagine what that would have done to the traffic at 54 and 74. Now let me get to the 54 and 74. That was the urbanization part. That project you've got that they're building on, you know, that you have to agonize and work your way around and go through and everything like that, you know, it does absolutely nothing for the traffic congestion going east-west. It does absolutely nothing. Randy can tell you, I was in the transportation meeting and Randy was leading that transportation meeting and the DOT engineer came in and I looked at that plan and I said, I don't think this does anything for the east-west congestion. Is this something that you're planning this project based upon your budget? And he looked at me and he said, it's a budget constrained project.
Wow.
So what they did was they had money left over from something. I'll get you in just a second, Dave. They had money left over from another project or some fund. And so they designed a project to meet that budget, not resolve the problem. And those divergent lanes only go north-south. It only handles north-south traffic. So the 2 miles into Coweta County and the 2 miles all the way up to City Hall, that's still there. And I interviewed the engineer in charge of that project. You can see that on my website. And I printed his answers verbatim. And I said, look, you know, this is an F. The only reason it's an F is because there's no K on the scale. That's how bad the traffic is. I mean, if you're coming from Coweta some mornings, it's 5 traffic light changes at 5474 before you get through. And I said, you know, what is this going to look like in your opinion when it's over with? And he admitted, it's not going to be much different, you know? And it won't last for long because we know the volume keeps increasing, right? So Kim passed that project. She approved that project. And I begged Vanessa Fleisch's administration, they approved it initially, but it took Leonard's administration to approve it too. I begged both of them, don't do this. It makes no sense and it will not solve the problem. Use the money for design, engineering, for a project that will actually resolve the problem. And they chose, both of them, not to do it and just go through with it to say they were doing something. So anyway, we're putting out a lot of materials. You've got some of them on your table. But we're going to take traffic seriously, okay? We're going to work on a solution. And I can tell you this, as mayor and as county commissioner, there's not a person that's brought in more regional and state funding than I have. 74 South got all the money for that one. 54 West got all the money for that one. Did the I-85 and Highway 74 interchange. I started that when I was the mayor of Peachtree City. We had what we call the Highway 74 Task Force. Then when I got in as chairman, I started working on it again, and I would not leave Toby Carr, who is the transportation director, alone. I went to Atlanta, and I went to his office every other week. And finally, he just said, give this damn guy the money, because I can't stand him coming to my office bothering me all the time. He said, we don't have any money. That's what he said originally, and then I kept finding money in the budget for him. I said, here's some more money for you where you can do this. And finally, he just said, do it. But I'm willing to do this. There's lots of things we need to do. The runaway spending, it's got to stop. Urbanizing, absolutely dead as of January 1. Protecting our existing neighborhoods. I am so sick of the councils in Peachtree City saying, well, you know, it's development. You're just such a NIMBY. You know, you just don't want anything in your backyard. No, you were here first. You moved there for a reason, and we're going to protect the reason you moved here. We're going to protect your quality of life. And you know what happens? The real estate developer comes in. builds some high-rise apartment complex, and guess what? He leaves and goes and builds it in the next place and leaves you with it when you got that big thing behind your subdivision. Go ahead, did you have a question?
Well, when you were talking about the LCI.
Yes.
You need to tell them where that came from.
Well,
ARC.
it's a regional government project, but it was initiated by the city.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. Family-oriented. This is one thing that bothers me, and I hope it bothers you as much as it bothers me. Peachtree City, when we moved here, my wife and I, with one small kid, one on the way, and we saw this place as an oasis for young families. The golf carts, the recreational facilities, the great schools, the low crime rates, all the wonderful things that if you've got young kids and a young family, what you're looking for in a community, right? And now I'm starting to hear, and they're primarily from our young Democratic sector, well, we need to have open alcohol in all our village centers. And we need to have more nightclubs. And, all these different things that they're talking about. And I'm like, go to Buckhead. Go anywhere where they've already got that. We specialize in being a family-oriented community. Don't bring in the garbage. Don't do that. And we've got a real contingent, because I know I debate a lot of them on Facebook, and some of them can get pretty mean, but they want to bring that in. And I'm sorry, don't bring it. And this is a politician's favorite phrase that he likes to hear, I want to help. And if you all would give us a hand, we would really appreciate it. James and I, James was someone who came to me, and this was before I even thought about running for mayor, and said, I really want to do this. I was born and raised in this area, and I'm really got a passion for this, and I read what you've written in your columns. I agree with it, and we really need to do something. And so I just started bringing up one issue after another, just to get his thoughts. What's on your mind? What do you think about this? And we align perfectly. And when Eric Imker and I were talking, and he said, look, you need to do this. He goes, you've got the energy. I just want to work on the budget. You do it. And so I told him, I said, look, let's run together as a team. And I've actually told people, look, if you don't vote for James, don't vote for me. Because I'm running because I need a solid majority to turn the budgets and turn everything else around. And if I don't have it, I'm just wasting 4 years of my life, and I don't have that many years left probably. So I want to do something constructive. So if you don't vote for James, please don't vote for me. Now, here's some ways that you can help. Social media warfare. And let me tell you what, it is warfare. Just on the Nextdoor app alone, they've said Steve Brown had a perfect traffic congestion reliever for 7454 by building the TDK extension, and he didn't do it. And then they started telling all this stuff that the TDK extension would do, and it was absolutely false, 100% false. You need to know about the TDK extension. I've got a whole section on it on my website. It was going to murder us. It was going to murder us, okay? They were going to build 1 million square feet of shopping center right on our border. They were going to build enough residential housing and apartments, single-family, townhomes, condominiums to equal the population of Fayetteville, Tyrone, and Fairburn combined. How are they going to get to Atlanta? TDK 74 South. You think that intersection's bad now? Build the TDK extension and find out. Facebook, there's lots of stuff going on in Facebook. And, we need people who will come out and start saying, no, here are the facts. Here's his website. Here's the web page. Or copy that section of the website and paste it as a comment. Because if you don't fill the gap and help keep the story true and keep the narrative true, and they're making up all kinds of stuff. I mean, somebody said, I approved all the big box stores on Highway 54 West, and I put in all the traffic lights. Nope, that was all approved before I got in, and all the traffic lights came in after I was in office. The only thing I changed from our land plan, I added 3 additional houses to what we could build prior to my getting in office. 3 additional houses were the only changes I made to the land plan. I did that for a developer because I need to put a golf cart access in there, so I gave him 3 homes to drop a lot for us, to give us the lot. And he said, yeah, we'll do the exchange. That's all. That's the only changes I have ever made to the land plan, ever. But they're coming through and they're saying all this stuff. And if we don't fill the gap with what the honest people are, it's not you and it's not me, it's the 800 people who are reading that thread who are going to believe what they're saying. And it is serious because people will believe what's on the thread, whether it's true or not. And it is so, so important that we get the truth out there. And I have everything, James and I have everything fully defined. All you have to do is go to it. You can click the link up at the top of your bar on the internet and then paste it in there and say, here's the real story. That's all you got to do. You can do that from the privacy of your own home. You can do it for 4 minutes a day. 4 minutes a day if you go onto the Facebook sites, and you will help our campaign tremendously. Now, one thing I would love for you to do if you're willing, if you're a Peachtree City resident, we need to come in full force to the September 18th meeting. Why, Steve? Because that's where they delayed the budget. Suzanne and Clint held up the budget because they said, we want something done. I've got a great video on this, and it's on the budget meeting, and it's actually set to music, which I thought was hilarious. So, you know, but it's got all the budget pieces that happened in that budget meeting, and you're going to hear the current mayor go from, this is out of nowhere. You're just all of a sudden dropping this proposal on us today. You know, I've never heard of this before. And then she has to admit later on, halfway through the meeting, well, yeah, we have been discussing this for 2 years, but that was just talk. You know, she flip-flops 3 times in that meeting. And here's the thing, they're going to vote on this budget on September the 18th. And, well, she says maybe. But we want action. They have been pulling excess revenues from your wallet every year that Kim has been in office. They keep piling up the reserves and piling up the reserves, and guess what they use it for? As a slush fund. And then you will see on this video, the finance director in that meeting on August 21 actually says, well, you know, I don't want to give it back to the taxpayers. Maybe we can buy pickleball courts with it, or we can buy another swimming pool, or we can do all, no, it's their money. And Suzanne and Clint fought that battle so well. It's worth watching it just to watch 2 of your faithful Republican stalwarts battle in a budget hearing against 2 people who absolutely did not want to address it. Watch the video. It's on Editorial Interchange, the podcast, and it's all over Facebook, and you know, maybe, oh, it's on the Republican website, Facebook page too. But anyway, we've got to tell them, we want change. We want change. Stop taking excess revenue and spending it on non-budgeted items, and find a way to fix the budget. Stop adding more employees, more people, and bloating the budget every year. I mean, if on this pace, if we keep going for the next 10 years, a young person in their 30s will never be able to afford to move to Peachtree City if we keep going like we're going. And I can hold a sign and wave. Boy, I love to hear that from somebody. But we're going to do a lot of waving, and we've got people doing door knocking, and we've got all kinds of things going on. And man, if you can volunteer physically on a site, we would love to have you. And it's fun. We get out there, we wave to people, they blow the horns, they scream out, go, go, go. And sometimes they shoot you the bird, but hey, it teaches you patience and love. But we'd love to have you. If you want to, go to our website. And on our website, there's a place I'd like to volunteer. Put your information in. We'll put you on the contact list, and we'd be glad to get you involved. But we are going to, at the August 21st meeting, I had several bystanders in that meeting who walked up to me after the meeting was over. And this was the consensus opinion. This is what one of them actually told me, and the rest of them kind of agreed with this. I just feel the mayor slipping away. She is losing her grip. She has had a tyrannical hold on our people on council, and now she is losing it, and you can tell in that meeting. That's the way I'd like to alter the picture. And again, I'm telling you, it's the who and the what, right? I told the young Republicans, stop concentrating on the who, concentrate on the what. You know, if it's, Kim could leave and somebody else could come in and they could do the exact same things, right? So it's not the who, it's what do I want? I want to be able to speak at meetings anytime I want to. I want to be able to put an agenda item on meetings anytime I want to as a citizen. I want my elected representatives to be able to put an agenda item on the agenda on my behalf. If I think it's worthy of it, they should be able to do that. I don't want secret meetings. I want to obey the laws, the state laws, and open meetings and open records. That is what defeat means. You get all that back, right? So we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And, you know, there's the website. Please go.
We have 5 minutes for 2 questions.
Okay, I have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
This is about the LCI. You know, I don't know, in 2020, over 100 people showed up at Kedron. You put your ping pong ball in the.
Right.
You want to redevelop the west side or the Postern or whatever. Do you see, and somebody went and got a do-nothing box and put it there and it was overflowing with ping pong balls. Do you see, and they stopped, they acted like they stopped, but with Laurel Brook and their condominiums and Planterra, while we all love partners and, you know, he's been a great guy, do you see them moving forward with the LCI? Even
Well,
though you said no?
No, I can tell you.
Do you see that?
Well, here, let me put it in perspective. She's asking all those apartment things and, you know, big urbanization things that I just told you about, right? She's asking, do you think that can go through? Well, let me tell you what happened. She went to those meetings. Kim did. She went to those LCI meetings. Never gave a single negative comment. Never gave a single negative comment. She was a citizen planning to be mayor in the next year. Never opposed that plan. I led the opposition to that plan. I was in the newspaper every week talking about it. There's a great article on it in the on my website. Go to the website. Great article. It'll tell you everything you need to know. But here's the thing. She changed the comprehensive plan to allow for that type of development all over the city. If you're not intent on doing it, why are you changing the comprehensive plan? Number 3, she hired a new planning director. Guess what the planning director specializes in? Urban planning. So if you don't think she's going in that direction, and then she's a lame duck mayor because you only get 2 terms, get ready. Because Vanessa Fleisch, her first 4 years was just so. I mean, nothing really going on. Her second year at the State of the City speech, she said, we're going to radically change the way things are done in Peachtree City. And that's when that LCI plan came out. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a quick announcement. You're on our website. I'll have your website up by this afternoon. I know you're not talking to the most computer interactive age group. So if anybody wants to find the information Steve is talking about, just go to our website.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I just have a question in regards to when a mayor does something that violates a specific law or something of that, what type of recourse comes from that? I've seen mayors in other cities that feds came in and different things for investigations.
You can file state ethics charges. If they're violating state law, you can file state ethics charges. Generally, you have to go through the Attorney General. For those of you who know Chris Carr, our current Attorney General, Chris has a little bit of a problem working on some of those issues. Jessica Szilagyi, who is one of the best reporters in the state, investigative reporters in the state of Georgia, she operates out of South Georgia. She has busted more corruption in South Georgia governments all over the state. And she just chides Chris Carr because she brings all these things with the evidence and he will not go against them because you know why? He's running for governor.
I'd like to add this, and then if we don't get him elected, and we don't get Cliff, and we don't get James elected, we are the dominant Republicans in this county. We are the only county in the south side, south of Atlanta. The Atlanta Regional Commission has 11 counties. Only 3 remain Republican. And that is Fayette to the south, Forsyth to the north, and Cherokee. We are the only ones. Peachtree City's election is not about Donald Trump. It's about maintaining
Quality of life.
quality of life versus quantity of life, because the Atlanta Regional Commission would love to see us go urban, and then you know what comes after that, transit.
And I'll be honest with you, before I get your question, I do just as well with Democrats as I do with Republicans. I do, across the board. I do just as well with Democrats as I do with Republicans. Because when it's local, everybody wants their pothole filled. Everybody wants their children to be safe. Everybody wants to live in a low crime area, right? And so on the local level, I pick up a lot of Democrats. And they like what I have to say, and I've worked with a lot of them too. I have worked with the NAACP on a lot of issues, especially when they first came in. So that's something that, you know, I'm really big on, is saying, let's think locally. I don't care who you vote for at the state. Well, I do care who you vote for at the state and national level, but in my race, you know, it's local issues. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to know where I can find, what you said about what you was gonna do with the city, you know, the box across the library and all those terrible things.
Okay,
So I could share it with,
Matter of fact, what we'll do, Angela,
Uh-huh.
can you bring this up? Do we have internet access?
I think, do I have internet access for Walt?
yes.
Okay.
She's going to go onto go to ptcbackontrack.com.
I got it. Okay.
And I'll show you where this is populated. It's all on there. We've got tons of stuff on there.
Steve,
Yes, sir. Go ahead while she's doing that.
when I moved to Peachtree City, there'd never been a murder in Peachtree City.
Right.
And there'd only been 5 murders in all of Fayette County since 1823.
Yeah.
How many murders have there been in Peachtree City?
I can't tell you the exact number, but I can tell you violent crime is up over 20% in Peachtree City. Violent crime. Okay, so when you go to our website, you see this top bar right here? You just go to it, and I've got 2 sections. There's news and issues, and there's links. So if you go to news and issues, and you click on that, here is all of her stuff. But see, all you have to do is click on this. All you have to do is click on this, on the picture. It will take you to all your resources. This takes you on that TDK extension. It shows you everything you want to know. It's the entire history of it. So if somebody comes out there and says, no, the TDK extension was going to work and it was all, you know, that was going to be what saves us, you've got everything you need on there. So,
Okay.
so if you go, and then I've got a whole section here on links. So Eric Imker, who Kim Lerner recognizes, I recognize as one of the authorities on city budgets in Peachtree City, is supporting me for reelection. I've got a full interview with him. We go over every one of the issues that are affecting our budgeting process. You can watch that video. He's also written a letter to the editor. It's right next to it. So if you go on down a little bit. And then talking about traffic congestion. And then here's the thing, just how much disdain does Mayor Kim Lerner have for the citizens of Peachtree City? This much. That is a Citizen article written by Cal Beverly that tells you that there was an issue that was so important that all these people showed up and they were desperate to speak on it, and they got 52 seconds apiece
52
to talk.
seconds.
They gave them 52 seconds, but they want you to say your name and your address. By the time you get through that, you've got 41 seconds to say it. Do they really care about your opinion when they give you 41 seconds? So all of this stuff is in there. So news and issues, links. And if you want to know more about me, there's a whole section about me. There's a whole section on issues. This is exactly what we will do. We're not sugarcoating it. It's not a bunch of maybes. And we all want public safety, and we all want a great place to live, and all these nebulous things that you say. Specifics. They're all on there. So check it out. Copy, paste, and those
Take your little
things.
cards off the table with the website.
But y'all can be social media warriors, and let me tell you, today's age, even in a local race, you can't win without people in there plugging away on those issues.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.